It was one of those political bombshells that didn't land. It exploded. A rally crowd was cheering, red hats waving together, flags fluttering in the spotlights. On stage, Donald Trump did what he did best: build attention, puff out his chest, and leave a line calculated to dominate tomorrow's headline. They gave me an IQ test, folks, and I got an amazing 180, one of the highest scores you can actually attain, both an IQ test to determine who comes out on top.
Wow.
Now, I did my test. I did a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I scored perfectly. I answered every one of all those questions correctly. The audience exploded. Supporters laughed, applauded, and quoted the number like it was scripture. Phones popped out to capture the instant, while Trump flung his arms wide, bathed in applause. For a moment, he wore the crown of brilliance he had put on his own head. Outside that stadium, however, the welcome was another. Fact-checkers slumped over keyboards. Reporters looked at each other. Medical professionals watching the clip online knitted their brows. An IQ of 180, not only unheard of, but almost unimaginable. And if it was true, certainly the records must have been kept. Within a few hours, the tale was not just a brag. It was an enigma surrounding the entire political universe. Nobody reads that question quicker than Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. While most critics simply rolled their eyes, she prepared. For several months, Crockett had been gathering murmurs, taking notes, and forging behind-the-scenes bridges to former White House aides. Let me be plain. I am far better educated than he is. This is what it is. Degree-wise, I have obtained my degrees. My daddy didn't need to make a call to get me into anything. And through those avenues, she gained what nearly nobody outside of Trump's inner circle had ever seen. The very cognitive test he took while in office, the same test that fueled his bigger-than-life assertion. What she discovered wasn't genius, not even close. When the time arrived, Crockett did not merely release the information, she staged it. Entering into a televised committee hearing with a massive leather-bound folder hugged against her side, she moved as if she knew she was carrying dynamite. The cameras preceded her every move. Veteran reporters naturally leaned forward. They had witnessed folders like this in the past, and they never held anything good for the man on the receiving end, particularly from those who have occupied the highest position in the nation. She sat down to read, and what emerged was no high-level IQ test for the gifted, no Mensa test, no devious logic games. It was the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, the MoCA, a straightforward screening device employed mostly to identify early dementia. One of its initial exercises, name animal pictures. Another, recall 5 everyday words for a few minutes. Far from the Everest of tests of intellect, the room moved, eyebrows arched, cameras snapped more rapidly. Crockett pushed ahead. When presented with a line sketch of a penguin, Trump had boldly scrawled "snow chicken." A stifled guffaw emanated from the rear of the room. When presented with a rhinoceros, he scribbled, "unicorn with skin problems." The ridiculousness swept the hearing room in waves. And then there was the clock exercise. Told to draw a clock at 10:11, Trump had put almost all the numbers on one side of the circle. The doctor who had corrected the mistake graciously in the margin read it out verbatim. The stunned silence that followed erupted into anxious giggles, then into shocked incredulity. Social media went wild in real time. The "shock a snow chicken" hashtag trended within minutes, flying around Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. The late-night comedians had barely a thing to write. The split-screen contrast of Trump boasting about 180 IQ and Crockett reading off his test answers was comedy presented by reality itself. But Crockett did not allow it to be merely a punchline. She reminded the room why it mattered. For years, Trump had cultivated a legend about his health, endurance, and genius. Praise-filled medical letters, some of which Trump himself ghost-wrote, vague claims of perfect exams, photogenic doctor appointments. It was a brand, a guard against critics. And now, step by step, that shield was cracking. She hesitated, left the folder half closed, and stared straight at Trump's supporters on the committee. This is not comedy. This is deception. A series of deceptions peddled to the American public to uphold a facade of omniscience. The weight of the words came down harder than the laughter, and she wasn't done. Grinning slyly, her eyes flashed with a hint that this was just the start. This was just the start. More papers, more contradictions, perhaps even sworn affidavit from a retired White House doctor. The mere suggestion was enough to send shockwaves across political war rooms. If Chapter 1 was this, what was to follow? The blowback was instant. Conservative commentators leapt to his defense. Some argued that the test was being read wrongly. Others demanded that all cognitive tests were essentially IQ tests. Trump himself exploded on the internet at midnight, excoriating Crockett as a low IQ maniac, seemingly forgetting she is female, and promising to take a new, even higher IQ test, given by the best people. The threat only added to the absurdity. Donors privately called aides to inquire if there was more to the